Okay, so in the first one right there, you're multiplying a monomial times a monomial. So you can do the 6 times the 3 first. So you can multiply whatever order you want. So you could do the 6 times the 3 first. And then after that, then you could do the y to the third times the y to the fifth. Okay? So that's all multiplication. And again, multiplication is commutative. So you can multiply in any order you want. So you do 6 times 3. So what's that? Good. So you get 18. And then you do the y to the third times the y to the fifth. So what do you do with those exponents then? Good, yeah, you add them. So 3 plus 5 is 8. So you get y to the 8th. So that's number 1 right there. And again, I don't think we need to do all of these. All right, the next one. Are you writing this stuff down, Ray?
Yeah.
Okay, wait. You got your phone there or something? Why don't you put that phone up behind you? Thank you. This shouldn't take that long. So here's number 2. All right, so the first thing you want to notice on number 2 is that m is to the first power, and then this n right here is to the first power. So again, we can multiply in any order that we want. So we're going to do the 3 times the 9 first. So that's going to give us 27. And then we're going to do the m to the first times the m to the second. So what's m to the first times m to the second? You got to add the powers. What do you guys think? M to what power? We're adding the powers on the m's. We got m to the first and m to the second.
M to the third?
Yeah, m to the third. Just add the powers. So 1 plus 2 is 3. So it's m to the third. And then n, well, that's n to the second times n to the first. So again, that's going to be 2 plus 1 is going to be the third power. So that's it for number 2. So it's 27 m cubed n squared. Let's try number 3. So on 3, again, we're going to multiply in any order that we want. This is all multiplication, okay? There's a multiplication in here. There's another one right there. There's multiplications between the 1/4, the s squared, and the t squared. So it's all multiplication, so then you can multiply in any order you want. So we're going to start out with the 1/4 times the negative 12. And when you multiply by 1/4, that's the same thing as dividing by 4. So what is negative 12 divided by 4? Yeah, Ray? Good. So it's negative 3. And then we're going to do the s squared times the s to the first power times this s to the first power. So that's going to be s to what power? Pardon me? Well, there's an s to the second, and an s to the first, and another s to the first. There's 3 of them. See them? The fourth, yeah. So it's the power on the s is going to be 2 plus 1 plus 1, so it's 4. And then we're going to do the t's. You got a t squared times another t to the first times another, I already had that one underlined, times this t squared right here. So you got a t squared times a t squared. So that's t to the what power? And again, if you look over there, I'll do it on the side. You got a t squared times a t to the first times a t to the second. Yeah, the fifth. Good. You got to add the powers, right? 2 plus 1 plus 2 is 5. So it'll be fifth power. So that's number 3. And again, we're not going to do all of these, so let's see what other ones we want to do here. Let's try, I don't know, what should we do? Let's do number 5. So on 5, what is this called? What do we have to do here? We're going to take this thing times this one and times that term. So what property is that? Good, yeah, it's a distributive property. So you're going to take that monomial and you're going to distribute it onto both of the terms in that in the parentheses. So you're going to do 6 times 2. So that's a 12. And then you're going to do a PQ times a P. So what's PQ times P?
Would that be P squared Q?
Yeah, good, yeah. You got a P to the first times a P to the first, so it's going to give you a P squared Q. So that's a P squared Q. And then you're going to distribute again, so you're going to do the 6PQ times the negative Q. Now that's really a negative 1Q. So you're really doing, there's really a negative 1 right here. So you're doing 6 times negative 1. So that's going to give you a negative 6. But again, now you're going to have a PQ times a Q. So what's a PQ times a Q? Good. Yep, that's a PQ squared. So that's it for that one. Let's try number 6. So again, on 6, we're going to need to distribute again. Now we're going to distribute this whole thing, okay? We're going to distribute this 1/2 x squared y. We're going to multiply that times the first term in the parentheses and times the second term in the parentheses. So when you do 1/2 times 6, multiplying by 1/2 is just the same thing as dividing by 2. So you just get 3. And then you do x squared times x. That's going to be x to the third. And then you do y times y, which would be y squared. And then, well then what's half of 8? That's a positive 4, so you get a positive 4. Then you're going to do x squared times x squared. So you're doing, here, let me show this. So you did the 1/2 here, half of 8. That's what gives you the 4. And then you're doing x squared times the x squared. So that's going to be x to the what power? You got to add the powers. X squared times x squared. You're doing x squared times x squared like that. To the what power?
4.
Good, yeah. That'd be the 4th. And then you're going to do the y. You're going to do this y right here times the y squared. So again, you're doing y to the first times y squared. So again, if you add the powers, you're going to get y to the third power. So that's number 6. And I think that'll pretty much do it for that page, right? So flip it over. And let's look at this example up here. So they say we're going to FOIL. If you look to the right there, it says number 1. The first step is FOIL. FOIL stands for first, outers, inners, last. And then they have this, I don't know what you want to call this thing. They have this box thing drawn here. I'm not going to use that, okay? So I'll just show you what FOIL is. And to do FOIL, all you do is you just do the distributor property twice. So you guys, let me slide this up. So what you're going to do to do the distributor property twice then is you're going to multiply this x times both of these terms. And then you're going to multiply that positive 2 times both of these terms. Like that. So you start out, you do x times x. What's x times x? Ray, what was that? Good, yeah. It's not 2x, okay? X plus x is 2x. X times x is x squared. So you're going to get an x squared. Well, that's the first terms multiplied together. That's where you get the f in the word FOIL. Then you do the x times the positive 3. So that's going to give you a positive 3x. Well, that's the 2 outer terms. That's where the O comes from in FOIL. Then in the green, you're going to do the positive 2 times the x. Right here. So that gives you a positive 2x. That's the inner terms. That's where the I comes from in the word FOIL. And then to finish it up, you're going to do the positive 2 times the positive 3. That's the last term times the last term. That's where the L comes from in the word FOIL. So positive 2 times positive 3, that is a positive 6. And then what you want to notice is that you can add these 2 terms in the middle right here. Those are like terms. That's what you were doing in Friday's lesson. So your final answer, you bring down the x squared. And then what's 3x plus 2x? Good. Yeah, you don't, when you add, you don't change the powers, okay? That's 3x's plus 2x's. That gives you a total of 5x's. So it's a positive 5x. And then plus 6. And that's your answer. You cannot combine any more of those. None of those terms, those 3 terms, none of them are alike. Okay, you can only add or subtract terms when the variable part matches exactly, including the power or exponent. All right, so let's try a few of these. So number 7. All right, so we're going to set the same thing up. So we're going to do this S. We're going to distribute one time, a second time right there. So you're going to distribute the S, and then we're also going to distribute the positive 4. So really, we're doing the distributive property twice. So we're going to do S times S. That's going to give us S squared. And then we got to do the positive S times the negative 2. So what's that, guys? What's a positive S times a negative 2? Jackie? Thank you, Jack. No, thank you. Thank you, yes. It's a negative 2S. All right, then in the green, we're going to do a positive 4 times the positive s. So that's going to give you a positive 4s. And then we got to do the positive 4 times the negative 2. So what's positive 4 times negative 2?
-8.
Good. Yep, it's negative 8. But then again, notice on this one that now you can add these two in the middle right here. So if we do that, we get s squared. So what's 4s take away 2s? Good. Yep, positive 2s. And then bring down the minus 8. And again, that's the answer right there. You can't go any further. So let's do a couple more. Maybe number 8, maybe I'll skip this one, but the one thing I will point out on number 8 is if you're going to do number 8, it's the quantity x minus 4 squared. Well, that means x minus 4 times itself. All right, and then you would just do it the same way we did the last one. But let's look at 9. All right, so in 9, we've got to distribute twice again. So we're going to do the 8m squared times both of these terms. And then we're going to do the negative n times both of these terms. So then in the red, we got 8m squared times, well, really that's a 1 there, right? So we got 8m squared times 1m squared. Well, 8 times 1 is 8. But then what's m squared times m squared?
M to the 4.
Good, yeah. Yeah, you got m to the second power times m to the second power. That's going to give you m to the fourth power. And if you guys forget these rules, like adding the exponents, you could also think of it this way. If you're doing m squared times m squared, well, that would be m times m. And then that would be m times m. And then I can think you guys can see that that's how you get m to the fourth power. All right? Because you got m times m times m times m would be m to the fourth. All right, then we still have to do the 8m squared times the negative 3n. So what's 8 times negative 3? Good. So it's a negative 24. And then it's just an m squared times an n. Get that stuff out of the way. All right, then in the green, we've got to do a negative n times a positive m squared. Now, generally, when you do these, if you got like a product with different letters, generally they'll put them in alphabetical order. So if you got a negative times a positive, that's definitely going to be a negative. And then you just got a m squared times n. And then to wrap it up, you got to do the negative n times the negative 3n. Again, there's really a 1 right here. So you're going to do the negative 1 times the negative 3. That's going to give you a positive 3. But then you got to do the n times the n. So again, if you're doing n times n, that should just give you n to the second power, right? Because you just add the powers. But then again, you'll notice that you can add these two in the middle. They are like terms. And that's really -1 right there. So you have like terms in the middle. It says you got -24 m squared n's. Take away one more m squared n. So then how many m squared n's do you have? You got -24 of those things, take away one more. If you're not sure, use a calculator, but it's basically -24 minus 1. What's -24 minus one more? Good. Yep. So that's going to give you a -25 of those things. They happen to be m squared n's. And then you just got to bring down the +3n squared. And again, that's your answer. You cannot combine any of those. Those are all different terms. You got an m to the fourth term, you got an m squared n term, and you have an n squared term. None of the variable parts match. They have to match exactly, including the power or exponent, in order to add or subtract the terms. So since you don't have any like terms that you can add or subtract, then that's your answer. Let's see what else we got on here. Let's see, I don't think we need to do all of these. Maybe like two more. Let's try number 10. So on 10, all right, we're still going to distribute twice, but we've got to distribute this x onto all three of these terms. And then we've got to distribute the -5 onto all three of these terms. So here we go. So in the red, we're going to start out with x times x squared. That's going to give us x to the third. Then we're going to do the positive x times the positive 4x. That's going to give us positive 4x squared. And then we're going to do the positive x times the -6. That's -6x. Well, then in the green, we have to do -5 times x squared right here. Well, that's going to give us -5x squared. But instead of writing it there, I'm actually going to write it underneath the 4x squared. Because I know that those are like terms. They both have an x squared, so I'm going to be able to add or subtract those. So I'm going to try to line up the terms that are alike. All right, the next one we got to do is we got to do the -5 times the positive 4x. So what's -5 times positive 4x? Alyssa? Yeah, -20x, good. So that's going to give us -20x. And again, I'm going to write it underneath that -6x because I know that those are like terms. So I got a -20x. And then all I got to do to finish then is I've got to do the -5 times the -6. So if I do the -5 times the -6, that should give me a positive 30. And then to wrap this up, I'm going to add like terms. So I've got an x cubed, I bring that down. And then I've got 4x squareds, take away 5x squareds. So how many x squares do I have? 4, take away 5. Good. So I got negative 1x squared. And then I've got negative 6x's, take away 20 more x's. Again, if you have trouble with this, use your calculator, but you got negative 6, take away 20 more. What's that? Good. Negative 26x. And then just bring down the plus 30. And again, that's as far as you can go with that one. You cannot add or subtract unless the variable part matches exactly. Well, I think we'll do maybe this is the last one. So let's do this number 11. So same thing, we're going to distribute twice. So we're going to distribute the 2x onto all three terms. And then we're going to distribute the negative 5 onto all three terms. So in the red, we got 2x times negative 4x squared. Well, that's going to give me negative 8x cubed. And then I'm going to do the 2x times the negative 10x. So that's going to give me negative 20x squared. Now notice I did a positive times a negative, right? Well, that gives me a negative. So that subtraction symbol right there, that implies that that 20 is negative. All right, and then we got to do the positive 2x times the positive 3. So that's a positive 6x. All right, and then in the green, we got to do negative 5. Oops. We got to do negative 5 times negative 4x squared. Well, negative times a negative, that's going to give us a positive. So that's a positive 20x squared. Again, I could have wrote it over here. But I think it's easier to write it under the other x squared term. Because you know that you're going to be able to add or subtract those because the variable parts match. All right, so then we got to do the negative 5 times the negative 10x. So negative 5 times negative 10, that's going to be a positive 50. So we get positive 50x. And then to finish it up, then we got to do the negative 5 times the positive 3. That's going to be a negative 15. Then we're going to add the like terms. So we bring down the negative 8x cubed. And then these cancel out. If you do negative 20 plus 20, that's 0x squared. 0 times x squared is 0. Then we got to add the 6x plus the 50x. That'll give us plus 56x. And then just bring down the minus 15. And I think that'll do it. That's as much as we'll do with this section. Let me stop the recording on this one.